All right, hey everybody, we learned about the properties the other day, and we're going to quickly go over those by going over your homework. But first, let's do a little review. The three names of the properties were the commutative, associative, and the identitative or identity property. The commutative property, very simply, is when you're switching the order of the numbers. The associative property is when you're switching the grouping symbols, but the order stays the same. And finally, the identitative property is anytime you're adding 0 or multiplying by 1 and getting the same thing. So let's check out how you did on the first page. We are using the properties really, let me go back. We are using the properties really to find ways of solving problems easier, right? So here we go. First problem, instead of doing 4 times 13, I'm going to multiply 4 times 25 is 100, and 100 times 13 is 1300. Remember, 13 times 1, and then add your 2 zeros, and put your comma in there. Next, 700 plus 300, that's the easiest thing to do here. You get 1,000, plus 127 is 1127. Put the comma in there. Next one, you see 68 plus 32, well that makes a nice 100. Plus 85 equals 185. I'm going to look for a number that ends in 10 here, so I'm going to multiply 2 times 5, which is 10. Then I'm going to do 3 times 4, which is 12. And I know 12 times 10, that's pretty easy, right? 120. This guy, let's add the negatives here, because when I see that 6 and that 4, that's going to make a 0. And 86 combined with 14 makes 100, but don't forget the negative. These two combined, I could have also started there, and I get a positive 100. So opposites cancel to make 0. So you get 0 for number 5. Number 6 we're going to save for the last of this section because that is the toughest. Let's keep going. 20 times 5 is 100. 100 times 7 is 700. 217 minus 17, well that is 200, right? Plus 545 is 745. 39 plus 11 is 50, and 50 plus 27 is 77. Next, 250 times 4. Well, that is 1,000, right? And 1,000 times 12 is 12,000. Next one, 19 minus 9 is 10, and 0 is the ultimate nothing, right? You don't do anything with 0. You just get 10. And anything times 1 is itself, right? These two are actually using the identity. 6 times 30 is 180, and the opposite would be negative 180. So let's go back to the tough one. 125 times 8. Well, what's 100 times 8? It's 800, right? And what's 25 times 8? Well, that's 200. So 125 times 8 is 1,000, times 9 is 9,000. That was tricky. All right. Let's go to the next section and see how you did here. All right, we're basically using these letters over here to represent the property that's shown for the numbers on the side. This guy, 14mn, 14mn. Notice how I read it the same. The parentheses are the only thing that's moving. So that is associative and it's multiplication, D. 19 plus 11 equals 11 plus 19. That is the commutative property of addition. Looks like I'm multiplying by 1 here to get the same thing. That is the identitative property of multiplication. So we got F. Next, XYZ, XYZ. We're just switching the parentheses where we start. So that is the associative property of addition. I'm switching the order. I moved the 65 to the end. Or you could say I moved the T to the beginning. That is the commutative property, and we're multiplying. So that is C. Adding 0 to get the same thing, it's just backwards, right? That is the identitative property of addition. That is E. Starting with N, ending with N by multiplying by 1, that is the multiplicative identity. Okay, now this one's a little tricky. See that X plus P? See how we start the problem with X plus P? And then over here we end the problem with X plus P? So it's not actually the parentheses that's moving, it's part of the expression that's moving. So that is the commutative property of addition. Okay, not every time you see parentheses is it going to be associative. This guy, a little tricky. H plus 0 plus 4 equals H plus 4. Well, what's actually different between the two? It's the adding of the 0 to get basically the same thing. There's a little more going on, right? But that's still the additive identity. And now I've got x plus yz equals x plus zy. So really, I should only be looking at this. This is the only thing that changes. We're switching the order, and it's multiplying the difference in the order. So that's going to be the commutative property of multiplication. Okay, a little tricky because you see that plus sign, you want to say addition, right? All right, the final page. We are making substitutions, and all I have to know on this page is, well, I'm multiplying everything, right? So I'm going to look at these three numbers and say, what numbers could I multiply to get a nice round number? And it looks like it's going to be 8 times 5, which is 40. 40 times 9, well, 4 times 9 is 36. Add that 0, right? And remember, you have one opposite symbol, and when you're multiplying, that makes your answer negative. Next one, QRS, you're adding them all, or I should say combining them all. And notice, they're all positive, so this becomes easy. We're looking at these two numbers to make 100, and 100 plus 19 is 119. In the final problem, I got three things being multiplied. So I'm going to multiply these three things, and I'm not going to pay attention to these negatives. All right, so I'm going to do 15 times 2. That'll give me a nice round number that ends in 0. 30 times 7, well, that is 210, right? Because 7 times 3 is 21, and then you add your 0. And then because I have one negative here in the problem and one negative here in the problem, the opposite of a negative makes that a positive 210. So that was your homework, guys. Hopefully you did well using the properties. You can apply them, and you can also name them. Great job.